He used to believe in God, used to pray before battle, used to carry a tiny Bible in his pocket next to his dog tags, used to whisper the Lord's Prayer beneath his breath as helicopters roared overhead. But all of that changed when he returned. From war, he brought home something heavier than his pack. Not just trauma, not just grief, but silent spiritual silence. And yet, one random morning, sitting alone on a park bench with no hope left, a little girl walked up to him and said 3 words that broke the silence: "Jesus loves you." And for the first time in decades, he heard something deeper than gunfire. He heard grace. David Turner was once a man of action, decorated, disciplined, respected. He served 3 tours overseas, led missions no one talked about, made decisions that still haunted him in sleep. But none of that mattered when he came home. The parades, the handshakes, the flags, they faded fast. What remained was a hollow ache. He'd returned to his country, but not to himself. His wife left within a year. She said, "You're not the man I married." Maybe she was right. He couldn't sleep, couldn't laugh, couldn't talk about the things he'd seen. He tried therapy. Didn't help, tried church. Sat through a sermon about peace and light, and walked out before communion, because he knew there was no peace for men like him. He lost jobs, moved between shelters, never begged, never stole. He simply drifted, until one day he stopped trying, stopped pretending he was okay, stopped hoping. That morning, he woke up and felt nothing. The world outside was gray. So was the world inside. He walked to a park, hands deep in his coat pockets, old military boots worn thin, eyes dull, heart flat. He sat on a bench near the playground, not because he liked the sound of children, but because he couldn't hear anything else. Her name was Emily, 7 years old, freckled cheeks, wind-tangled hair. Holding a red balloon that bobbed in the breeze, she skipped across the park, saw him sitting alone, and stopped. She didn't hesitate. Children don't see danger in sadness. They see need. She walked right up and said, "Hi, I like your jacket. Are you a soldier?" David blinked slowly, unsure how to respond. "Used to be," she smiled. "My daddy says soldiers are brave. He says they keep us safe." David looked down. "I didn't keep anyone safe," he muttered. She tilted her head. "Did you get hurt?" He paused. "Yes, but not the kind you can see." She didn't ask more. Instead, she held out the balloon. "You look sad. This might help." He stared at it. A red balloon in a man's weathered hands, something absurd. Something sacred, and then she added, soft as a whisper, "But even if you're sad, Jesus still loves you." David flinched. The name hit him like shrapnel. Jesus, that the name he'd locked away. The name he screamed in foxholes and cursed in nightmares. The name he'd stopped believing in. Because it felt like Jesus had stopped believing in him. But this child, she said it like it was simple, true, present, like Jesus was still here. "Thank you," he said hoarsely. She smiled, gave a quick wave, and skipped away. He watched her go, then looked at the balloon, and wept. That night, David sat on the edge of his cot, balloon tied to his wrist. He didn't know why he hadn't let it go. Maybe because it was the first thing anyone had given him in years. Without expecting anything back, he stared at the balloon until sleep took him, the first peaceful sleep in months. The next day, he returned to the park. Same bench, same breeze. Hoping that she came. "Hi again." She grinned. He smiled. "Hi, Angel." They talked. While she talked, she told him about her school, her Sunday class, how she prayed before bedtime. He just listened. For weeks it became routine. She'd arrive, tell him about Jesus walking on water, healing the blind, feeding thousands, and every time before leaving, she'd say, "Don't forget Jesus loves you." David didn't know what was happening, but something inside was shifting. He cleaned his coat, polished his boots, cut his hair. He began reading the children's Bible she gave him, each story like a flashlight in a long tunnel. Peter denying, Thomas doubting, Paul persecuting, yet all of them were loved. All were restored. And suddenly, he wondered, could there be room for one more broken man? One Sunday, Emily said, "You should come to church." David hesitated. "I don't belong there." "Yes, you do," she insisted. "Jesus wants you there." So he came, sat in the back, wore his old dress shoes and the only button-up shirt he had. The pastor spoke about prodigals, about coming home, about how God never stops waiting. And David cried again. The altar call came. His legs didn't move, but his heart cracked open. That night, in the quiet of his cot, he whispered, "Jesus, if you're still there, I'm yours." No flash of light, no voice from the sky, but a warmth settled over him. He hadn't felt warm in years. Weeks turned to months. David joined the church men's group, started serving at the shelter. He spoke less about war, more about grace. One Sunday, he gave his testimony, held up the framed balloon. "This balloon saved my life," he said. Well, Jesus did, but he used a child with a balloon. Years passed. David now mentors young veterans. He stands outside the church every Sunday with a handshake and a smile. And every Veterans Day, he gives out red balloons to children, each one with a note, "Jesus loves you and he hasn't forgotten you." Sometimes, the most broken hearts need the smallest voices. Sometimes, a balloon and a name are all it takes to lead a soul back home. You never know how far a simple act of love can reach. You never know what's going on inside the man sitting on the bench. And you never know how God might use a child, a balloon, or even you, to bring someone home. If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Comment, "Jesus still saves." Subscribe to Faith Light Stories for more true stories of hope, healing, and heavenly surprises. Because someone out there needs to hear this, and you could be the one who delivers it.